Welcome to the Great Loop Radio podcast, brought to you by America's Great Loop Cruisers Association. We're dedicated to sharing Great Loop information and inspiration with those actively cruising, planning for, or dreaming about a Great Loop adventure. I'm Kim Russo. I'm the director of AGLCA. Today we are going to be featuring our newly named sponsor of the year, and that is Heritage Harbor Marina. We're going to bring some of the lovely folks from Heritage Harbor in to tell you a little bit about the marina and also about cruising the Illinois Waterway, which is where they're located. So that's our topic for today. As always, I want to take a moment to recognize and thank our Admiral sponsors who support AGLCA at the highest level. They are Passage Maker Trawler Fest, Great Loop Yacht Sales, Skipper Bob Publications, and Waterway Guide Media. As always, we encourage our listeners and viewers to support these businesses that support the Great Loop. I also just want to take a moment as we sit here a day or so past Hurricane Milton. We know we've lost a few looper boats in that storm, so appreciate everyone's patience as we work to get some details to our current loopers on what services might be available to them as they start to look towards whether or not they can continue towards the Gulf Coast of the peninsula of Florida. So, of course, our hearts go out to those who have been directly impacted by the storm, but we know lots of loopers are impacted in many ways. So let's go ahead and start our conversation today. I would like to welcome Jeff Heimsoth and Bryce and Sam Wallace from Heritage Harbor. I'll let you all kind of make introductions. So, Jeff, why don't we start with you and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're involved there?
Sure. Well, I coming to you from Ottawa, Illinois here. I have been involved in some way, shape, or form with Heritage Harbor really since the very beginning. We opened officially in 2008, but I was involved in the planning and site selection and design and all those sorts of things way back then. And then I've kind of been involved in various respects since then. Have become significantly more involved here just in the last year with some of the staffing things that have happened to us, and then I also am involved with Quest Water Sports, which is an affiliated boat dealership and mechanical services provider here in Ottawa.
Yeah, and thank you for that kind of introduction. And Bryce and Sam, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your involvement at Heritage Harbor?
Absolutely. So I am Bryce and my wife Sam. We have been boaters out of this marina here in Ottawa for the last 10 years. And our family has grown with this marina as it's grown up. 6 years ago, Jeremy and Christy asked us to help out during what we call looper season. We started as dock hosts and became full-fledged harbor hosts. So we've been the harbor hosts now for almost 6 years. We'll be finishing our sixth season. And
we certainly appreciate that and all that you and the rest of the Heritage Harbor team does for loopers and other boaters coming through. Congratulations. Our members have named you as as sponsors of the year. And the way our sponsor of the year naming works is we take nominations from our membership, and the home port crew also sometimes nominates some harbors that we know have gone out of the way above and beyond. And then once we've got our nominees, we open it up to the full membership for a vote. And Heritage Harbor is, of course, the winner this year. Tell us, let's start, Jeff, if you would, a little bit more specifically. We know you're in Ottawa, Illinois, but a little bit more specifically by waterways where you are and, how many transient slips you have and amenities and things like that about Heritage Harbor.
Okay. Well, we are, again, located in Ottawa, Illinois, which I guess as the crow flies is about 80 miles west and a little bit south of Chicago. But more specifically, we're located here on the Illinois River at mile marker 242.3. So we're actually correct me if I'm wrong, 5 locks in from Lake Michigan as you're coming through Chicago there. And we, again, located here in Ottawa, which is right in the middle of what we call Starved Rock country, which means that there are lots of great scenery and outdoor things to do here. We're right in the middle of a handful of really, really nice state parks and trails and other things like that. So blessed to be in that location. Talking a little bit about the marina itself, as I mentioned, we opened in 2008. And I think we started with about 100 or so slips in the water, and we've continued to add since then. We're up to a little bit over 200. And actually, most of our slip customers are seasonal in nature. So we really don't have a sort of designated number of transient slips, but I guess the way I like to think about it is that we always keep plenty of room available for our looper friends as they're coming through in the fall.
Yeah, that is certainly true. And this question's for any of you who would like to answer, but what is it that makes Heritage Harbor such a special place?
Well, I can start with that. I always start with the place. I mentioned Ottawa and Starved Rock Country. We think that a lot of who we are has to do with being in that location, and not only is Ottawa a great place to live for us who live here, but we think it's a great place to visit. So again, we enjoy being here. We love the fact that our boating customers can take advantage of that as well, either by boat or sometimes by land as well. And then really above that, kind of speaking about the facility itself, back when we opened in 2008, we really had the goal of making it one of the premier facilities in the Midwest. And so we did some studying, and we tried to find the best of the best in terms of design and dock infrastructure and amenities and those sorts of things. And we opened. We think it was a great place then, and as I say, we've continued to grow and improve since then. And then really, I guess I would say most importantly, just the approach that we take to the operations. And I could go on about that all day long, but I guess the bottom line for us is that we care, and we care deeply about our customers and the experience that we have, and we really base everything off of that, and everything kind of comes from that in everything we do.
Yeah, and that definitely shows. Bryce and Sam, as boaters who have lived aboard there, tell us why you think it's a special place.
Well, I mean, to touch a little bit on the same thing that Jeff said, the amenities here and the way the marina is designed makes it a very welcoming and inviting boating experience. It's very modernized, especially for the area. But even so, being modernized, they kept that down home mid-America feel to the marina itself. There's a little bit of Cape Cod, there's a little bit of Midwest. It's just an enjoyable marina as a whole. The staff is some of the best staff, bar none, on the inland river system, between Quest and the dock hands and our marina management team. They all just go above and beyond to make sure that they keep the community together.
Yeah, and that is 100% true. As someone who has pulled into Heritage Harbor myself on our boat just as night was falling, it's comforting to know that there are still people there waiting on you and are going to help you get into the marina. And because you're positioned, as Jeff said, after a series of locks, you don't always have control about what time you're going to arrive, because it's up to the locks and the commercial traffic and other things happening on the waterway as to when you will actually arrive at the marina. So over the years, we've heard so many times about what a well-run operation it is and how helpful you are to loopers who, this may be the first time they've ever cruised after dark if they've gotten stuck at a lock. Right after we announced that you were sponsors of the year, we got this message posted from one of our members. Basically the same day, they said, "We just attended Bryce's briefing, which was phenomenal." And we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. But they also added, "An entire flotilla of loopers were brought into the marina today in one of the most professionally run operations any of us have encountered to date. The staff here could not be any nicer. The restaurant food was great. The slips are extremely well maintained. Congratulations. This is a well-deserved honor." So that was from one of our members after you were announced as the winners. As I said, it's very clear as you're coming in that you all have done this many times and have it down to a great procedure. So tell us how you arrived at that procedure and what you actually do when 6 boats, perhaps 12 boats are coming out of the lock and headed your way.
Well, in all honesty, it kind of started just On Jeremy and Christie's brainchild. It was Jeremy and Christie being thorough in their planning. And when they set where boats are going for their transient slips, whether it's our long tie up on the side by the marina office, or maybe somebody needs fuel, but they don't need water, so they tie up at the fuel dock, or just getting creative with where we put them. The plan that they have is these boats come in and then they plan it to make sure the crew is not having to run around like crazy to catch each and every one of them. And Christie's ability on the radio is amazing. The fact that she could stand up here, whether it was at the top of the hill or in the bucket truck like she used last year during 2023, and to be able to talk everybody into their slips and never miss a beat and always be on top of everything. The experience that they brought, and it just evolved from there. As the experience grew, so did the process. And that trickled downward into the crew and into us as well. Honey?
So this year, it was great working with the crew because you didn't really have to teach anybody anything. They all knew what they were doing, and a lot of times there was no talking to each other when we were pulling boats in. We just knew what the other needed. Now last year, when we had all the boats coming in, it was a whole community effort. Everyone, like we had people from the houses coming down to help. We had experienced boaters coming down to help. There was always hands to do what we needed to do.
And that's part of what is so phenomenal, because a lot of marinas, they'll get it done. But if 12 boats just came out of a lock and are all arriving at the same time, it takes a little while for most marinas to get their dock hands positioned, get the next boat. And that's what's amazing about Heritage Harbor is you have so many people willing to help, that Christy, and she was up there in the bucket truck when we came in, looking out to see where everybody is. And she's got it down to an order. She asks everybody to come in, and there is somebody waiting for each and every boat at the slip that they're supposed to go to. And Christy very succinctly directs them to it. And there's somebody there waiting to grab those lines. And particularly if it's getting dark or already dark, that's such a warm and comforting feeling. So thank you for that. And thank you to that entire community there that all steps in to help with that. Because as I said, in many marinas, that would be a very long process to get 12, or last year, often 16 boats coming through. So we've talked a little bit about last year. And in 2023, we, of course, had a series of lock closures on the Illinois Waterway that meant that looper boats didn't really even leave Chicago until around October 1st, which is kind of late in the season. So, of course, at this point in time, October 11th of last year, we were still hardcore 16 boats at a time heading down the river. And as we've said, Heritage Harbor is positioned to be an ideal safe harbor for them. And of course, Jeremy helped probably countless hours, attended our briefings that we had for our members, so he would know what we were putting out and he could add information. Just did so much to go above and beyond with all that. Shortly after that, Jeremy unexpectedly passed. We've talked a lot about Jeremy and Christy, and it was just such a shock for, I'm sure, everybody there and for the looper community, particularly after everybody had so much interaction with Jeremy in October of 2023. So tell us what Jeremy meant to Heritage Harbor. Jeff, why don't you start on that one?
Sure. Kind of goes without saying that he really was the heart and soul of our operation. He had been with us in that role for well over a decade, and had a lot to do with the policies and procedures and operational techniques and so forth. But really, even more than that, he really set an example for and commanded the respect of each and every member of our staff. He was just a spectacular leader, a spectacular human being, and really everybody who was involved in the marina and is involved in the marina responded to that. He set that example, he set that standard, and that really carried through our operations. So, in terms of the operations, he really built a lot of that for us over those years. But really above and beyond that, he was a friend. He was a close personal friend of mine. I know Bryce and Sam will say the same thing. And he really was a friend to every single person that was involved, whether that was the youngest dockhand or many, many, many of our customers and many of the loopers as they came through. And so obviously the surprise news that we got when he passed really hit all of us hard.
Yes, but you've done such a phenomenal job of picking up from where he very sadly left off and continuing the tradition. Jeremy and his wife, Christy, of course, lived aboard there at Heritage Harbor. Have to ask how the ducks are doing, because that was one of my favorite parts when you visited.
There's
Well,
they're laying eggs and everything.
Good.
They are absolutely thriving. They love the attention that they get from the kids with the little.
We just had a new set of ducklings this year,
Yes.
didn't we?
Right. Well, let's say that the ducks are doing so well that we had to relocate a few of those ducks to a friendly pond that we know of here in town.
And for those of you who haven't been there, the ducks are welcomed there. They have a house kind of built for the ducks and a little area on the dock that's specifically set up as a little duck area, and it's adorable. And it lends to that kind of homey feeling that Bryce was talking about, that it's a very modernized marina, but they really kind of kept that homey Americana type of feel to it. So, Bryce, I want to ask you, Jeremy was very well known for the briefings that he would give, and he would stay till very late in the evening. After the last boat came out of that lock, it might be dark already, but Jeremy would stay and hold his briefings to tell boaters what to expect on the rest of the Illinois River and what to expect on the part of the Mississippi River that loopers are doing to get to the Ohio River. These were detailed, sometimes taking 2 to 3 hours. I think our own was about 3 hours. And part of what's amazing about that is that there's nowhere else you get that level of detail from somebody who knows the waterway, because even at our events, we don't have the time to spend that much time on that number of miles. We have to move a little bit faster or we'd have a very long event. But so great information covering anchorages, covering marinas, covering what to expect from conditions on the waterway. Bryce, you have very kindly and generously stepped up and continued those briefings, which is amazing. So tell us a little bit about, if you know, why and how Jeremy started those briefings and why you felt it was important to continue them.
I'll let you handle the history of them.
So Jeremy started them about 10 years ago. He'd be talking with people. They'd come in on a one-on-one basis and he'd go over things, but it was taking 30, 40, sometimes an hour every time. And it got to be too much. So then he said, I'm doing them at this time when they come in and we can do everybody at once. So that was just kind of how it started.
And then last year we were fortunate enough to get through just about every single one of his briefings during the 2023 Illinois River craziness. Needless to say, it was, I think there was a reason for that, and we were glad for it. It gave us a few extra minutes of his time, even if we were just sitting in the corner. And I continued it because, well, first and foremost, I mean, his briefing was his pride and joy this time of year. He loved every minute of doing it and the interaction with the boaters and the community that came through. So to carry on his legacy a little bit, and I am in no part anywhere near as knowledgeable or as wise as he was. So I put my own little spin on things, and I still inherited a couple of his jokes that I continue in the briefing. And it's just the information that we give out whether it's the river conditions or marina anchorage or marina depths and the amenities that they carry downriver, anchorages that we know are safe for them. And the whole point of it is for the AGLCA members on their trip to enjoy the slice of life that we have, grown up in and live in every day. It's supposed to be an enjoyable trip. And if we can take a little bit of that stress off of them, it's worth every minute of it.
Yeah, and thank you for continuing the briefings, Bryce and Sam, because it really is key for loopers. Some of them are starting the Great Loop from the Great Lakes, and they have, when they reached you, just gone through kind of their first series of locks and maybe feeling a little bit overwhelmed about what's to come. Really puts a lot of people's minds at ease. The year we were coming through, the river system was very low in depth. So having Jeremy tell us what to expect at different marinas and anchorages was just really key to giving us that comfort level coming downriver. So obviously this is a very well-deserved honor for all of the things that Jeremy started with Christy and that Bryce and Sam and Christy and Jeff have all continued. So let's take a quick break. We'll be back. We're just going to play one message from our sponsors. And when we come back, we will pick up and talk a little bit, Bryce, since you've been briefing people on the Illinois Waterway, we'll pick up and talk a little bit about what people saw this year and what's kind of expected as the season starts to wrap up. So we'll be back in a moment.
Did you know that every mile of the Great Loop is covered by both the Waterway Guide and Skipper Bob? Use them to plan your Great Loop cruise and learn about the places you can visit. In the cockpit, important navigation info is always ready at your side, plus marina listings, anchorages, services, and so much more. Each Skipper Bob and Waterway Guide is updated yearly, and waterwayguide.com and skipperbob.net keep you current with navigation alerts, cruising news, fuel prices, and special deals. With the Waterway Guide and Skipper Bob at the helm, you'll always be on course. Order yours today at the AGLCA ship store at greatloop.org. Waterway Guide and Skipper Bob are proud sponsors at the Admiral level with AGLCA.
The Ditch Navigation app is your own personal harbor pilot, ensuring safe passage on the water. Powered by AI and fueled by AIS data, Ditch provides instant local knowledge on your phone, laptop, or other mobile device. Wherever you go, Ditch calculates your smart path, showing the routes that experienced boaters use. Ditch is perfect for finding a safe path through tricky shoaling waters and can also be used to explore routes boaters take to find new anchorages or secret fishing grounds. For more information, visit ditchnavigation.com. The Ditch app is available on the Apple App Store and Google Play. We're back on the Great Loop Radio podcast. Today we are talking about and honoring our sponsor of the year, which is Heritage Harbor Marina in Ottawa, Illinois. We've got Jeff Heimsoth and Bryce and Sam Wallace, who are coming to us from there. Bryce, we've talked about Jeremy's briefings that you've continued, so I guess now we can call them Bryce's briefings. In general, kind of what have the conditions been this year, and what do you expect as the season coming through there starts to kind of wrap up?
Well, a lot of the boats that have kind of led the way and got down here in the last month and a half or so have definitely felt the low water. It's a little bit lower than it was last year, and with that, the troubles of anchorages are becoming more and more common. We're getting a little creative, and I have quite a few boats reaching out and exploring and sending me, pin drops on active captain or navionics, so I can include those into my briefings. The Illinois is as close to a flat of a pool or as low as they can usually go. The current is a little less than half a knot, and that definitely shows in some of the shallower marinas. We even have a marina or two downriver that is closed to transients, which I cover in my briefings. The Mississippi is predominantly in the same case, to even limiting tow size on the industry side. And so losing a lot of those, I try to make sure that I touch base with at least somebody downriver. It's usually been Debbie down at Hoppy's that I've got my information from, and she does a small briefing as well, right as you're getting ready to enter that 200-mile trip to Paducah. But the Mississippi's just as low, and we're just starting to get a little creative.
Yeah, and that's the kind of local knowledge that is really important, because you can look at your charts and you can look at all of your cruising resources, and things that are unusual are not always well represented there. So thank you for continuing that. It's really helpful information for loopers. You all know, our listeners may not know, that AGLCA honored Jeremy posthumously, sorry, that word is always a struggle for me, posthumously at our spring rendezvous when Christy accepted the Bravo Zulu Award. on his behalf. Christy has remained at the marina, but we do understand that she is getting ready to move back to her hometown. So Jeff, why don't you tell us what's next for Heritage Harbor in terms of the day-to-day marina operations?
Sure. Yeah. First, I just want to quickly thank Christy. She really did step up over the season here. She had been there, by Jeremy's side in every way, shape, and form previous to that. So, she really kind of kept that continuity through this season, but ultimately decided that, she wanted to move a little bit different direction in her life. So she's actually just now in the process of moving back to the St. Louis area. And I'm sure we'll stay in touch and see her from time to time. We certainly wish her well. So, where that leaves us is, as you say, what's next. And we have, given that considerable thought, over the previous weeks here. And, really, I guess what I would say is that we've kind of come to the conclusion that filling Jeremy's shoes with a single person is probably difficult, if not impossible. So the good news is that Jeremy had developed a very strong team, and we have a group of folks now all of whom have been with us for a number of years. One of whom is Jeremy and Christy's son, Jacob, who really, I think, as collectively embody some of the same values and skill sets and so forth as Jeremy and Christy did. And so really the decision we've made is to kind of take a team approach. So we're have for the past couple of weeks, and probably will be for the next couple of weeks, kind of putting the finishing touches on exactly how that organization will look. But it will essentially be a team of people that have, again, been with us for a number of years, and we're excited about it. We think we'll have all the bandwidth we need and all the help we need, and we're pretty confident that we're not going to miss a beat, and we're going to keep things moving in the right direction and continually improving as we've always tried to do.
Yeah, and it's great to hear that. It's wonderful to hear that Jacob is going to remain. It'll be nice to have a part of the Fowler family still there as part of the Heritage Harbor family.
Yep.
And, of course, we wish Christy all of the best. She, from an outsider's perspective, was a complete rock through this, because I can imagine being in her position and kind of returning to their home, which was also their place of business, and being able to continue with what she and Jeremy had kind of done together. And just hats off to her, because she has been a rock and done a fabulous job. And we wish her the absolute best in whatever she decides is next for her. Again, congratulations. Sponsor of the Year is a big deal to us, and we are so appreciative of your sponsorship, but also for the outstanding service that you've provided to our members, not just this past year, but since you've been around. We appreciate it. Jeff, Bryce, Sam, thank you for joining me today and sharing the details about Heritage Harbor.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you and some of the members here in a couple of weeks at the rendezvous.
Yes, we will officially present the award to Jeff, and his wife, Debbie, will be joining us too. We'll officially be doing that at our upcoming fall rendezvous. So we'll see you then. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to everyone who's watched or listened this week. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Great Loop Radio podcast. Until then, safe cruising.